Is Mateta set to leave the club? Reports are coming from Germany. We'll be discussing that. Joe Whitworth, is it worth sending him out on loan? What is his future at Palace looking like? And more. Let's get started with Palace news. Welcome to live Palace news, technically live. It's not 100% live. It's premiering. We recorded this earlier on in the day to release it later on to gather all the latest news that happened yesterday. Unfortunately, we couldn't go live yesterday, so we thought, we might as well discuss it because it's still relative and nothing has changed ever since these news. No one's come out, said it's going to happen. It's not going to happen, so it's worth discussing them. But we should be live in the chat, me anyways, discussing some of your comments. So send them through. And if you're watching on replay, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to not miss out on future Palace content, people. We're keeping you up to date throughout the summer and hopefully have more content alongside the transfer news coming as well relatively soon. AJ, what have you been up to, bro? It's been a long week for you, hasn't it?
Yes, half-term week. So for all those parents out there, I salute you because, do you know what, right? Do you know what it is? It's just making everything work. All the intricate bits fit, because obviously you have to fit, A, you have to get the time off work. B, you got to obviously find activities for those little people. C, you got to be able to afford those set activities for those people. And then obviously, it also comes with a busy hustle and bustle of traveling. But I've got two very, very sharp, very, very lovely kids, to be fair. So they make my life easy, man. But you know what I mean? It doesn't mean that the process is easy. But yeah, man. As you can see by the bags under my eyes.
Yeah, the weather's nice though, man. The weather's nice. You have to be enjoying it. That's why I'm in a good mood. Until Palace break my mood, which I think is going to happen relatively soon. I know that something's going to come out that's going to ruin my mood. But weather's nice. The sun is shining. It's nothing bad has happened so far. So you can actually enjoy the break.
Yeah, it's been chill, man. It's been good, man. I might even go for a little walk outside or something, man. Try and get a little bit of fresh air. But although, to be fair, I've been out and doing activities and stuff. My little people don't know how to keep still, which is also good for me because it keeps me active. But, I've hit the swimming pool a couple of times this week, hit the parks a few times this week, done a couple outdoor stuff. Haven't really had time to sit down, to be fair, apart from when, I'm sleeping and they're sleeping. So, yeah, man. Same. No parties this weekend, man. Just pillow and bed and food. That is it.
Same, literally me as well. But let's get started with some of these news. And let's start off with Jean-Philippe Mateta. So according to reports over in Germany, the newspaper Bild, they have said the following. Striker Jean-Philippe Mateta wants to leave Crystal Palace this summer. And Everton have already registered interest in the player. As you guys can remember, this was the case, I believe, over in January as well. Everton were after him. Crystal Palace are happy to let him go and even ready for a loan deal to get him off the books. So that's interesting. We'll also discuss that. The reason why he wants to leave is due to his little playing time from his point of view. And he would like to go back to Germany. However, there's been no interest so far from the Bundesliga. There's a lot to unpack there, AJ. But let's start off with Mateta wanting to leave. For me, I think it's the right move for all parties involved. I think Mateta has scored some fantastic goals for us and some important goals for us. But in all honesty, I don't think he has the quality to be consistent Premier League starter. I've seen enough from him. He might score the occasional brilliant goal, which I think you can't take that away from him because he scored some key goals for us. Millwall, Brighton, even this season, Leicester at home, when Roy first came in, that winner, massive goal. But he can't do it in 38 games. And for that reason, I think it's time to move on. But he wants to leave. What do you make of that?
D, I've got a bus pass, I've got a driving license, and I've got a debit card. Where does he want to go? I'll drop him. I'll pay for the Uber. He can have my bus pass. Hey, listen, I'm pretty sure I got an Oyster card lying in one of my drawers somewhere. He can have it, bro. Do you know what, right? Once upon a time, I used to debate and argue that this guy needed a chance and he should have been our number one striker up front. And yes, he has had those once, when I mean literally once, every 10, 15 games, little bit of magic that makes me want to believe in him. But let's be honest, bro, dude's trash. Like, he's trash. Like, our strikers are bums, man. Like, and that is one area
I would say he's trash, but he's not Premier League level. In my opinion.
He's Bambi on ice. He's Bambi on that. He's Bambi on ice. Do you know what it is, right? At the Premier, this is where we have to be realistic. If we were Palace doing the yo-yo thing, I reckon he'd dominate in the championship because of obviously his presence in the box. But at the end of the day, right, in order for the club to progress, we need players that are going to take us to that next level. And the reality of the situation is Mateta can't do that. He has given me moments to be happy, but he's just not consistent enough. And to be fair, he is like I've said this before, he's a bit of a clumsy genius. Like, he always looks like he's about to fall over. He always looks a little bit lanky and a little bit uncomfortable on the ball. But once in a while, he'll just sort of cut through the defense. He'll get that little random header. He'll bang that little winner and like lift the place up. But if we're being serious, right, you got to look at the resale value. You know, if we can get a bit of money back on him, we got to be looking at, can we get players in that will progress us to the next level? I just don't think he's that. I've always, I've been very, very privileged to actually meet the guy. And I've also been very, very privileged to see him at Sellers and do bits. But I think it's the right time. I think it just makes sense for everybody involved. He, in his mind, seems to think that he is better than he is. And that's not me attacking his ego as such, but I've obviously seen clips of him, on the Palace CCTV stuff, talking about, I will show you, I'm the better striker, I'm this, I'm that, I'm the whatever. But over the past 18 months, he hasn't really returned what we invested in him. So at the end of the day, if we can get our money back or we can get a little bit of profit on him, I'm all for it, man. Like, there's nothing really, the only objection I would have to it is if we don't bring in a striker to replace him. That's the only objective, because if it's a case of Mateta and one less striker, I'd actually rather keep Mateta, funny enough. However, if it's a case of we might have one or two, alternatives lined up, let's go for it, man. Let's just sell him on, where we can get a little bit of money back for him. If he wants to go back to Germany, if he wants to go to Everton, do your thing, bro. There ain't nobody out here trying to stop you. Believe me.
Yeah. Let us know what you guys think in the comment section, in the live comment section, if you're watching this live, about the Mateta situation. Loan deal was interesting. The Palace are ready to let him go, according to reports, even from a loan deal perspective. And I looked at his reported wages. Of course, it's not like the NBA where we know 100% for certain. In football, you don't have them details. But reportedly, he's on £50,000 a week, which is not cheap. It might sound cheap, but it's not cheap for a striker that, that hasn't been consistent enough. So even if it's a loan deal and we get rid of £50,000 a week, I think that could go, decent places. But yeah, I think it's time to move. When I said it when he first signed, I'll never forget that video that was done in the live transfer deadline day. And I said it, even though it's £9 million, I understand it. I feel like we got bought into hype a bit too quickly. And it hasn't worked out. And plus, if we're going to keep Roy next year, which we don't know yet about the manager situation, that's gone quiet as well. I don't think Mateta suits us by any chance, because Roy didn't rate him when he was last at the club, and he didn't really play him as much even when he did join the club once again. So I think Mateta is just completely out of the books. He clearly rates Edouard a bit more. But interesting that he wants to go back to Germany, and there hasn't been any interest from the Bundesliga. But look, he wants to leave. Palace are ready to let him go. We'll probably talk about this a bit more when more details start coming out. But Everton, let him go, Everton. Give us £50 million. Let's somehow make profit out of this player, and let's move on. That's how I see it, if they want to. But I reckon it's not going to be as straightforward as that, because clubs ain't dumb as well. But then again, we're talking about Everton, and they've been a bit crazy with their ownerships. So yeah, let's move on to the next player, which is on Joe Whitworth. Some positive news, maybe, depending on how you view things. But according to London News Online, Crystal Palace want to loan out Joe Whitworth. The Eagles want him to go out there and get a bit more experience at the start of his career. AJ, I think this would be the right move, right? Joe Whitworth, he's still fairly young. He was put in a deep end against Brighton, I remember, in his debut because of the goalkeeper situation. And I think he performed relatively well, considering his age, his experience, and the timing. He didn't expect that as well. Done well against Arsenal as well. But for him, the next step is, not just for him, but some of these youth players, is to go to the Championship, build up some experience. And if you have a future at Palace, you'll play at Palace. If you don't, then there's going to be some sell-on value based on what you do in the Championship. So I think this would be the right move, especially if it goes out in the Championship.
Yeah, I agree. Joel Whitworth. Right, so the thing is with him, he came into the squad pretty much out of nowhere, obviously due to unforeseen circumstances in terms of what happened with the Brighton game, and then obviously the injury scare we had with our goalkeepers. And I think he really represented himself well. I do think he's got a bright future at Palace. I'm not sold on the idea that he'll particularly go anywhere anytime soon. I think if he can go somewhere and get a 38, 42, even 46 game season, I think that will be to his benefit rather than to his detriment. I guess the only concern I have about Joel Whitworth is his size. He is quite small in stature. At the under 19s international, we saw him outside the stadium, and bless him, I'm not the tallest guy ever, but he did come across as a little bit small. However, he's 19. So let me finish. Let me cook. Hear me out, right? I think he's very, very talented, and I think he held it on in the Premier League. But I always feel that with a goalkeeper, you do need to have a little bit more presence about you. I don't think you have to be 6'8" or 7'2" or something like that. But I think when you're about 5'8", that is going to kind of eventually catch out to you. And I feel that maybe going to the Championship or even potentially League One, he'll come across a little bit more of an aggressive play and an aggressive style of football, which I think will not make a man of him. I don't think that's the term I mean. I think it will kind of just give him that kind of correct experience and give him a little bit of an insight on how to kind of deal with different situations. That's all I'm saying on that part of things. If some of the greatest goalkeepers of all time haven't exactly been the greatest size and stature, to be fair. So that I'll be respectful in. But in comparison to what we've got in Sam Johnson and the comparison what we've got with Vicente Guaita, I do think he's not near that level as it stands, but I do think that is open to change, or that can potentially be subject to change with an experienced season or two under his belt, potentially at a lower level. I like the idea of loaning him out, to be fair. I really do think he's got a bright future, and I really do think that he can really achieve great things with Palace, as long as he wants to be here, and obviously circumstances playing his way. But yeah, man, I think he just needs to go somewhere and get a little bit, not roughed up, but, a bit of grease to him, man. Add something to your game a little bit. Because I just don't think he'll do that or achieve that as a third choice keeper at Palace. I just don't think he will. And the chances of him getting that opportunity again this season is going to be very, very slim. Fit goalkeepers.
Yeah, when you're playing, you're of course going to get experience that you won't have when you're not playing. And I think going to the Championship is the right step for him. But there's always this talk about his height and not, but I mean, there's pros and negatives to it. I don't remember him facing Brighton or Arsenal and worrying about his height. I mean, his reactions were very fast because he can get down to the ground quicker. Wayne Hennessy was the total opposite. Wayne Hennessy was tall and he couldn't get down to, he might be better in the air in terms of catching the ball. You would think so than Joe Whitworth, but I don't think he has the reactions as fast as Joe. So it depends on where it goes. But
just to challenge that a little bit, D, just a little challenge on that, right? The two teams he played against aren't religiously known for height or set pieces, which was Arsenal and Brighton, right? What happens when he plays at Everton or a Burnley or a Brentford, where they actually have a bit of height and a little bit of rough and tumble? We have no idea how he's going to be able to respond to that. And that's not me saying that he can't, because for all I know, he might come in there and start leaping over 6 foot tall guys. I don't know that. But it's just something I'd like to see him gain the experience from, and I would rather him do it at a lower level at no cost to Palace than do it to us and it dents his confidence. Because remember, we're not silly, man. We're Crystal Palace, man. Every point is vital for us. And going into next season, obviously depending on how the circumstances will play out in terms of management, recruitment, and what kind of potential season we can have, we can't afford to have Joel Whitworth in that equation. I just think that if we played a certain team and they just done us over in set pieces or done us over in terms of aggression in the box or height in the box, I think that could dent the man's confidence. I'd rather him go and do that at Charlton or something like that. You see what I'm saying? Where, hell, if he makes a mistake, he can learn from it and play again next week. Because Charlton lose those points where we can't. See where I'm coming from?
Did he look bad on set pieces? Again, so
how many
you say that, but
how many set pieces did he really have to deal with, though? Because remember, he still has. I don't know, because who's a set piece at Arsenal? Yeah, but then who's a threat attacking wise, height wise in those teams?
Okay, but why are we so? He made a brilliant save from a set piece against.
I respect it.
Brighton.
No, D, hear me out. Yeah, but D, I respect it. All I'm trying to say is, the way I'm looking at it is, what is he going to benefit and what's he going to gain, rather than, we just sending him out for loan for the sake of sending him out on loan. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I do agree that I think the loan is important for his development. But the way I'm looking at it is hypothetically, what is he going to gain from going out on loan rather than sitting there being third choice or going back to the under 23s? Exactly. And for me, I'm looking at Joe Whitworth and I'm thinking, what in this young man's game do I personally want to see? And it's just an observation of actually being close enough to the kid to actually see what I'm looking at, because obviously, you know, in all kinds of walks of life or football, you're going to look at an opponent or you're going to look at the competition and you're going to sort of see something and think, I can exploit that. And I'm just kind of concerned that maybe against a sort of smarter team or more tactical, potentially manager, knowing that Joe Whitworth might potentially be starting it and they might potentially target.
I don't know. I get it, but I don't know. You're talking about his height more than anything, which I get. I get the concerns. But going out there against, I didn't see anything from his first 2 games at Palace to say, oh, his height is going to be a massive problem for us. I personally didn't. I thought he looked solid in set pieces. And I know we're talking about Burnleys and all the other teams, but then again, the Burnleys nowadays don't even play football like that. More teams are changing. They're going long balls. And they want to play with the ball on their feet. And I thought there was a lot of positives from Joe Whitworth's game. I'm not saying he looked like the finished product by any means, but there's going to be weaknesses to every goalkeeper. Like, I don't think anyone expects Joe to be #1 goalkeeper in the world. But I think there was some very good strengths I saw with the ball on his feet. He was good. His reactions were absolutely fantastic at times as well. And maybe against Arsenal, he could have done a bit better with 1 or 2 saves. But we're talking about a 19-year-old goalkeeper who just needs to get more experience. Not because of set pieces that I saw this or that, but I think he just needs more experience. And I think this is the right move. If he doesn't have a future at the club, I don't think it's going to be down to his height unless something happens in the Championship that we see. But I think it's going to be just down to maybe he ain't good enough for the Prem. But these are scenarios that we're just making up. We don't know. I just think purely
it's
with
fair.
this story, I think
it's fair. I just think to myself, sorry, bro. All I'm thinking to myself is, sorry, bro. sorry.
No, go.
All I'm thinking to myself is, that's just me looking for, because you know I'm like, bro. That's just me looking for what's the weakness there. That's just how I'm thinking. At the end of the day, he might go alone and do a madness and go get the Golden Glove in the Championship or the Golden Glove in the League One or wherever he might, or Belgium, who knows. I'll be the first person to put my hand up and be like, you know what, I'm sorry, I didn't recognize your game. You see what I mean? So, yeah, I don't know, man. I'm just sort of looking at it thinking to myself, what is there to gain? What is there to lose? You know, and what is it about his game that I think potentially could improve? I mean, at the end of the day, I was pretty satisfied with what he gave us against Brighton and Arsenal, to be fair, considering the circumstances and how quickly he had to kind of be fast-tracked into the starting 11. So, hey, man, listen, I'm there to be proven wrong. And I'm always open to learning from things. So let's go, man.
Yeah, let's see what happens with it. But yeah, I think he'll go out on loan. Let's see where he goes out on loan to. Hopefully a Championship club, and build some experience. That's the most important thing. And naturally he'll learn. The Championship ain't easy by any means. And if he's not successful in the Championship, which can happen as well, then at least we know going forward potentially, that he might make it or not make it Premier League. If he's successful, then we'll go forward from there. But at the end of the day, if these players can't play for Palace, what we need to make sure to do as a football club is to make sure they have a bit of value that we can sell them on. That's what has to happen. And with Joe, he's still fairly young. He's still gonna have lots of room for experience. So yeah, I think this is the start for his career. He's had 2 games in the Premier League, and hopefully teams go after him because he looks like a brilliant shot saver. But I agree with you, AJ, in terms of there's areas of his game which there are question marks around, but with a low move, them question marks will be answered. I didn't see anything in these past 2 games. But let's move on to the final bit of story today, which was on Kieran Tierney from Arsenal, according to journalist Ekram Konur, who's been providing a lot of news this past this past month. He said Aston Villa will now compete with Everton, West Ham, Palace, Brighton and Newcastle for 25-year-old Scotland defender Kieran Tierney. I'll be honest, we're going to keep this short. I don't think this is happening because Arsenal won in the region of 25 to 30 million pounds. If we were willing to spend that on a player that's injured, spend that regardless of injuries or whatever, that should be on the right back, Sacha Bowie, worth around 25 million pounds. I don't think we're doing that for Kieran Tierney with his injuries. So I think it's as straightforward as that. I don't think it's going to happen. AJ, do you have any faith in this?
Yeah, agree. I mean, strange things have happened. You never know, but yeah, nah, I don't see it. It would, it'd be nice. I mean, in terms of, granted he's got the injury prone, and maybe that would be where Mitchell could potentially slot in and out of the squad and maybe improve, learn something. But Duke can't keep himself fit for 20 minutes. So, I'm not
Makes
on
sense.
buying not a washed up player, but a player that is just going to cause that much headache and hassle for me. It's long. It's long for man.
Yeah. Yeah. No, if we had that money, if he had money to waste, then fair enough. But I think he's a very good player on his day when he's playing. I think he's very good. But there's that question mark about his injuries. And right now we've got other priorities. We're talking about Mateta potentially leaving. We still haven't sorted out the right back position. If we're going to get someone, I think Lewis Hall out of the left back position, I think that makes most sense out on loan. But look, we'll see what happens with that. Let us know in the comment section. What do you guys think as well? If you have enjoyed this, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. We should be back for live Palace news. Hopefully relatively soon. If there's anything out today or tomorrow, we should be back for that, covering all the latest stories. But that's it from me and AJ, and until next time, up the Palace.